Hey everyone, Pugs here with 2 new reviews for y'all. Today I'm covering Procrastination and I'm with Stupid. And oh boy, last review had my favorite episode of season 2, while this one has my least favorite. Can you guess which one it is? I'm sure it's probably obvious. And of course, once this little intro is done, the suspense will be over with. So I'll just let you guys guess for the next, 15 seconds. As always, I just want to extend a quick thank you to everyone who's been watching, liking, commenting. Y'all know the drill. And I just recently hit 100 subscribers, so that makes me really happy that there seems to be 100 of y'all who actually like listening to me rant about this show. So that's always nice to see. And yeah, with all of that said, I'm just going to get right into these reviews. Okay, is it just me, or does Procrastination feel more like a short than a whole episode? And yeah, I know that a couple scenes were cut from it, which makes it have like a 10-minute runtime and reruns, but honestly, it feels like a 7-minute episode to me, like it belongs in season 5 or something. And frankly, I kind of wish it was 7 minutes, because this episode gives me too much anxiety. It feels like one of those dreams where whatever goal you're trying to attain is just out of reach. That's not to say that this episode is bad by any means, it's actually quite good. But these are the vibes that I get from it, and they're not exactly comfortable vibes. Procrastination is definitely a relatable episode, with SpongeBob like doing literally everything but write his essay, and watching SpongeBob try and fail to start his essay is funny, but it is a bit repetitive and starts to grow anxiety-inducing and frustrating after a certain point, especially once SpongeBob starts hallucinating/dreaming. Though I will admit I love the bit with Patrick. That scene is hilarious, and I definitely have parts of it saved for reaction meme purposes. But especially once the house is lit on fire, I'm like getting sucked into the anxiety over Procrastination along with SpongeBob. And I mean, that shows that the writers definitely have an understanding of what procrastination is, but man, I do not want to be feeling that when watching SpongeBob SquarePants. I have enough of that in real life, thank you very much. But I have to admit, I am impressed by the craft here. And thinking of the actual content of this episode, things start off pretty well with SpongeBob's infectious enthusiasm that I always love to see. I prefer when Bikini Bottomites aren't annoyed by SpongeBob, but I have to admit that Nat's mocking of SpongeBob here is hilarious, so I'll let it slide. And also, sometimes I just like when other characters are like completely over SpongeBob, so, it's a win-win. It's all about balance, if we really think about it. The episode is also pretty funny in general. I know I just said I didn't exactly like SpongeBob struggling to write his essay, but this part of the episode was funny too. Like, the whole Hop Who thing was also really funny to me. It's very much a mixed bag in that way, I suppose. And the way SpongeBob hallucinates everyone and their mom telling him to write his essay is pretty funny. As for the ending of Procrastination, since I've basically already talked about the whole middle portion of this episode, the ending here oscillates between pissing me off and making me laugh a lot. Because on one hand, it's extremely frustrating for SpongeBob and the audience to have gone through all of that for nothing. But on the other hand, it achieves an effect similar to Squid's Day Off, making all the effort that SpongeBob put in not being worth anything in the end be something to laugh at, which is rather impressive in my opinion. I really don't have much more to say about this episode beyond what I already have. It's a good, if both slow and fast episode, and it makes me feel anxious when I don't exactly want to. Sometimes it feels like this episode is rather forgotten about too, which I think is a shame. It may be 2 tiers below the cream of the crop, but very few episodes of this show deserve to be forgotten in my eyes. And so this episode is going straight into my good tier, coming in with a score of 7.6 out of 10. So, I'm with Stupid. I'm not sure if I've mentioned this in these recorded reviews yet, but I'm not a big fan of this episode. At all. And that's why it's my least favorite of season 2, like I said in the intro. We're down in dumped territory with this one, or honestly, we're below that, so let's talk about it. One thing that helps this episode immensely is that it actually starts off pretty well. The scene where Patrick is frantically cleaning everything in preparation for his parents arriving is great, and it has some pretty good jokes in there, like the note. And this scene also sets up a good conflict for this episode, as well as gives us some new insight into Patrick's character. He can handle being dumb, but he doesn't like being made to feel dumb or being condescended to. And I think that fits with everything we've learned of Patrick so far. His best friend is SpongeBob, who we already know doesn't condescend to anybody. SpongeBob also shows how good of a friend he is in this episode by volunteering to play the idiot so Patrick looks smarter by comparison. Of course, it's predictable where this little plan of theirs will go, but that doesn't really make what ensues enjoyable at all. So let's just get into it and get this over with. We get the most tired trope of what could go wrong before everything does, in fact, go wrong, which only serves to increase my annoyance. Not that I necessarily dislike that trope, but like, if it's done before something bad, then it makes that bad things worse, you know? It's like an enhancer, I guess. Patrick's parents already come off as extremely annoying in their first scene of Patrick 2, and so far, I haven't really laughed once between the end of the first scene and the end of the second, which is kind of a bad omen for the rest of the episode. And this is kind of where I'm with Stupid really falls apart. It's somewhat nice to see Patrick start to get some credit from his parents, but all of that niceness goes away once he starts legitimately insulting SpongeBob. I just kind of question what the purpose is here because it's not funny, and once again, it's very annoying. At least it's not boring, I guess, which is the worst crime that an episode of this show can have sometimes. I like that SpongeBob stands up for himself here too, and doesn't let himself be walked over just because he's trying to be a good friend. This scene in the kitchen, however, is nearly ruined by Patrick being a jerk-ass, much like how that one scene in Dumped that I came very close to liking was also ruined by Patrick being a jerk-ass. See how so many of the episodes I dislike have something in common? I'm just saying that now, just so you can keep note of that and maybe think of what the worst shows or what the worst episodes in this show might be for me. Going back to the episode, though, Patrick is just extremely oblivious and obtuse for the rest of these 11 minutes, though I will admit the dumb people are always blissfully unaware of how dumb they really are line did get a chuckle out of me. I just wish they did more of that, such as, the parents finding out that SpongeBob isn't actually an idiot, which would have made things a lot more satisfying. And I think that's this episode's major issue. There's no satisfaction whatsoever. And I think that's what bumps it below Dumped in my personal ranking, because at least that episode has a satisfying and humorous ending. While the ending of this episode is funny, it doesn't resolve the issue with SpongeBob at all, which leaves me frustrated. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let me finish going through the rest of the episode first. Though, honestly, there isn't that much to say about the remainder of the episode that I haven't already touched on. It's insulting and unpleasant. The secondhand embarrassment is off the charts, and SpongeBob doesn't even bring it on himself, so it's not even it just has that extra layer of annoyance, I guess. In fact, SpongeBob has done absolutely nothing to deserve what he gets in this episode, given that he was just trying to help his best friend out. Not that Patrick exactly deserves that kind of title in this episode. I really don't understand what writers' fascination with making Patrick a horrible friend is. This has been a problem in nearly every season of this show, and I just don't know why, because it, never works. Just leave it in the past already. Historically, I've put I'm with Stupid in my mediocre or even okay tier, but looking at it now, it's just not very good. And like I said earlier, there's absolutely no satisfaction to be had here, other than finding out that the parents are idiots too. I want to see apologies or something. SpongeBob running out in frustration does nothing for me if there's no resolution. And the insult to SpongeBob and Patrick's friendship this episode provides is not appealing whatsoever. I always considered Dumped to be the worst of season 2, but nah, that dishonor goes to I'm with Stupid now that I've sat down and reviewed it. There are good elements here, but the whole product is not that great at all. And this episode fits right into my barely tolerable tier, which I've shortened the tolerable just to keep my single word tiers. And it's the first of its kind in SpongeBob SquarePants, so congratulations? Yeah, I know, I can't really say congrats to that. So let me just say that this episode is coming into my tolerable tier with a score of 4.8 out of 10. All right. Let's get these closing thoughts on the road. Though really I don't have that many to say. I've basically just went through and said how I don't like I'm with Stupid at all. I mean, I say at all, but there are some likable things or else it wouldn't be in my tolerable tier. And it's just kind of funny because after I now have reviewed my actually least favorite episodes in the show, in my written reviews, it's funny how tame this review is. And I remember at the time it was definitely my most negative review when I wrote it back in December. So it's just kind of funny to see how times change. And hopefully you didn't notice any difference in my recordings for each review, because for some reason my phone decided to delete the recording for I'm with Stupid and these closing thoughts yesterday. So I had to re-record them the day after. So hopefully I sound mostly the same and it's not distracting. And yeah, I really don't think there's anything else I could say. So I'm just gonna go ahead and end the review here, and I will see you guys next time.